thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. Killing the game and I gotta go ask anybody, they all heard about it. They know when the kid and he's spitting it, know when he getting it, bit and I get in my way. Got this, I like do whatever I say, cause I could go put you on blast. People been mad at me cause I don't follow them back. I'm laughing cause that is so whack. Why they all trying to act like they been bossing when really their boss has been bossing them up? Nobody ever been telling me what I would do when I keep in the cash, why the shit out of luck. I want it more, now I get what I wish. Upgrading now with some pants that I whip. Making 6 figures, don't talk about it. Money ain't shit, it's about how you think. Tired of people who making excuses, then they complain about losing. Tell me about what you been doing, tell me about how you been moving. You ain't got nothing to prove then. I did it all on my own, they looking like all of my clones. I don't be following trends, fuck all the popular clothes. You faking and everyone knows, I just be keeping it real. They thinking that I have to go sign a deal, but really the people just found an appeal. I'm in my own lane and I'm steering the wheel, ayy. It's funny how it goes, funny how it goes. Working every night till the sunrise.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back once again. We're here, Season 5 of No False Finish, Episode 1. And usually we wait till the middle of the season for the Q&A episode, but we're going to kick it off hot with a Q&A from the XCW Galaxy. And why don't you tell everybody what you've had going on since outside wrestling, per se, because we obviously know what's going on in wrestling. What has Fletch's life been like?
Boy, it's been a whirlwind of shit in the last few months. Shoot job, my personal jobs, in a bit of a disarray. I made a conscious effort to finally leave that behind after 5 years of absolute fucking misery. So I'm in a transitional period right now in my life, and then obviously I just had a 2-week battle with COVID, which was pretty unexpected considering I am the virus. So it's been a whirlwind. It's been interesting. Right now, just trying to get back to normal life, and things with that, even within the XW camp, has been a little rough over the past few months. So we're just trying to get XW back on track to where it needs to be.
Yeah, I myself have been venturing out, taking on other projects, writing for a website, lordsgaming.net. I was also writer for the month for September, so I got some swag coming my way in the mail. I started a Pro Magic the Gathering team. I know you're not too much into that geeky stuff, but they went to their first tournament 2 weeks ago, and out of 364 people, they got 11th and 12th, so it's not bad. Been going on podcasting. I'm working out, trying to get you on a podcast with the one I was on Saturday, the Wasteland Spotlight. But obviously, time differences, Australia and the United States. So hopefully, we'll get to see you on his shows.
Yeah, I've been working alongside the PMC
network.
ENT network. We've been doing some stuff with Blaze over there, and we're doing some stuff. We've been doing some game shows and some other little projects. I offered him a sponsorship on one of our programmings coming up, trying to help him get the word out for his Roku channel and stuff. A lot of our talents featured throughout his channel, so it's been a good collab. We've been working well together, so that's one of the little projects kind of behind the scenes I also been working on.
A lot better than Edward Fowler.
Yeah, although, have you heard Edward Fowler lately? Guy's doing interviews with Eric Bischoff weekly and stuff. Yeah.
Eric Bischoff must be desperate.
I don't know.
So, shout out to Grady. We're going to jump right into it. What's the state of the current XCW product?
So, it's a disarray right now. I'm not going to lie. Things behind the scenes are not great. It's growing pains in XW, obviously. I mean, it's just a lot of things going on, a lot of growth, a lot of changes. But as long as there's new faces that continue to come in, as long as we continue to grow the brand, to survive. But there just comes a point in time where you do have to kind of move on from some of the people and from some of the other. There was some toxic stuff, and even the days of XW running its best. So it's a work in progress. Right now, we're winding down the end of the season. A lot of guys are tired. A lot of guys are hurt. Once some time off happens, people will be chomping at the bit again. And you know how that goes.
Yeah. Always, towards the end of the season, the constant every 2 weeks beating up the body, but then we go into the off season, we get time to relax. We get the fun off season shows with Men of Honor and the other things that we do during off season. Here's a question that we've never had, and I'm interested to know your thoughts. Somebody from Twitter wanted to know what is our favorite show theme, like entrance theme. We played the entrance music at the beginning of the show, and our own, like, what is our favorite, like, wrestler's theme song as well. So show theme, wrestler's theme, and I already know mine, so I'll go first. Favorite show theme, it's not just because it's EBW, but I'm going to have to go to Jay-Z, Backyard Bash. They'll allow me to reintroduce myself.
Public service announcement.
Public service announcement by Jay-Z, and
It's got banned on YouTube. Thanks, YouTube.
Personal favorite wrestling theme is, I'm going to have to go with Untouchables theme. Fort Minor, remember the name.
Well, it's tough. I think we've steered away from that a lot in the more recent years. It was a huge focus in XW back in the day, and I think that as the company grows and some of the things that we concentrate changes, like it has become kind of an afterthought. It's kind of it's just there. Obviously, some of the older school intros and stuff really stand out to me. Like even Summermania in the last few years have become very theatrical. One thing that always stands out to me was when we did the Hail to the King intros for Shun King. And we did that as a running theme for a few years, and it just had a lot of hype behind it. It was edited really well.
Yeah.
So I think like that as a Shun King opener for the past few years is definitely a standout. As for theme songs, man, I don't. There's been so many good ones and so many that have stood out over the years. It's tough to say. That's really tough.
I obviously had the advantage because I knew what the question was beforehand.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I know people got pretty hyped behind Shovel Heat.
Oh yeah. Which song? Hollywood Undead?
Undead, yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
I actually totally forgot about that song, to be honest. Yeah, Undead was pretty fucking solid.
Yeah. People get behind JL's.
Yeah, JL's.
JL's at Ground Zero recently, the FWL versus XW. Pretty hyped entrance right there.
I was nudging him, trying to get him to get back to rap, and he's like, I don't know, man. I don't know if I can do it anymore. I'm like, man, it's just like riding a bicycle, man. So so on to the next question. What would you do as a entertainer if like someone were to charge the ring, like a fan, crazy neighbor? Like, what do you think? What would you?
Obviously, if someone's charging into the ring, their intent is to more than likely hurt someone.
Yes.
So I've always been trained as a wrestler. Somebody gets in the ring that doesn't belong, you beat the shit out of them.
Yeah.
You beat them to death until somebody pulls their ass out of that ring. So that still stands today. That's how I was taught. That's the way it is. You jump in that ring and you don't belong, I'm going to kick your ass. So
I'm of the same mindset, completely agree. So even if your old ass grandma gets in the ring, super kicks always loaded and ready to go.
That's right.
Who do you think's the most underrated superstar currently on the roster?
Currently?
Yes.
I'm
going to say Kurt Acid.
I'm going to say Void. I think, or even, believe it or not, Brady Branson. Two guys that consistently you put them. Brady has a hard time overthinking things.
I agree.
I think that if he didn't think as much about what he's doing, and I know that he doesn't consider himself necessarily a wrestling fan outside of XCW. Like, he didn't really come into knowing much about anything wrestling until XCW, but he does have a certain mindset, and he does better than anyone gives him credit for, or himself. Void is someone who bubbles under the surface, I think. I think he stays content with where he's at as a character and as a performer, but honestly, I think that under the surface, under anything, if you put Void in any certain situation, feel like one way or another he's going to perform.
Yeah. And I personally had said Kurt Acid just for a simple fact. A lot of people, we, bag on Benji a lot. That's because we've known him forever. He's our friend and stuff like that. But he's got a mindset for the wrestling business. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people go to him for like finish spots. We recently recorded All or Nothing, and we had a gauntlet match, and the finish was organized by Evan and Kurt Acid or whatever. Like, Benji's a good wrestler. Like, when he's got his fucking mind focused, like, he's good. He's a good technical wrestler, and he's got the mindset just like you or I. So,
I just wish that he was in a little bit better health. Like, it's a little bit different than like you and I, who a lot of it's riddled from injuries from over the years and stuff like that. Kurt Acid's always worked a style where he was more grounded, more so than us, and that's kept the injuries down for him over the years. But he has a lot of other issues that's kind of rearing its ugly head, and I kind of hope that he can maintain those things so that he can continue to have the successful career that he's having. Especially right now, I feel like Kurt Acid has a huge resurgence.
And he's fucking hot as the boat, man. It's funny because I'll be sitting in the audience or whatever, and I know what I can say as a fan to get Benji to do what I want him to do. Like, he wrestled, we had the belt match yesterday with him and the enforcer Jaden Tucker. And like, I bet Jaden Tucker chops harder than Kurt Acid. I knew as soon as I said that, Benji's gonna fuck him up. Who do you think are the top 3 current active superstars?
So is this an in-ring,
Overall.
promo, and overall?
Overall.
Because, there's guys that are maybe not even necessarily great wrestlers, but awesome entertainers, great performers in their own right, and then there's other guys, that in the ring are absolute standouts and mind-blowing, and maybe they don't have that character or whatever. There's a lot right now.
I'm going to go real quick because I had this ahead of time. I'm going to say Tommy, Brogan, and then the third place is really hard because you got Evan, you got the Bradys, you got the ACTs, you got the Hayden Bexes that have only been here for a couple of seasons.
Right.
But I'm going to say Tommy, Brogan, probably ACT.
Man, it's hard to include guys like Tommy and Psycor and Corey because they've been here for so long. They have every right to be on top of that list and bump all those other guys. I am in a mindset of XCW right now where I'm just looking. As unfortunate as it is for guys like for Kurt Acid and Psycor and Corey and Cerebral and all these guys, kind of looking through them.
Yeah.
I'm looking at XCW and what it's going to look like in the 2 years to come. And, guys like we've been talking about, Tommy and Psychors and Corey's and all of them have had their day in the sunset. Yeah. So I mean,
if
I'm looking at guys like Brogan, ACT, Branson.
So if I drop Tommy, then like I said, then you get Brogan, you get the ACT, and you get. I'm gonna pick Brady.
Yeah, Brady's just come into his own so much. Just from him winning the championship last year at SummerMania even to this year, even though he's not in the main focus of XCW right now, he's not in the main events, he's not in the world title, like Brady still stands out on the card. People are still behind him, and he's still, he's going, even if he goes out there and takes a loss to Jackson Law, he elevated Jackson Law, he didn't hurt him. And that's the cool thing about guys like we've mentioned, the vets, is being able to go in and take a loss. There's nothing to Kurt Aston's career to take a loss to Jay Tucker. But Patrick O'Reilly goes out there and takes an L right now, and it's blown it. Yeah. And that's one thing. And that's one thing that's been really special about Brogan and his character, and how he can go out there and lose every dark match and lose every match on Ground Zero, and take huge losses to guys like Corey Lee and Brady Branson and ACT, and his character is so strong, and his ability is so strong that he just bounces right back. He can take 25 losses in a row and bounce back fine. You just got to know when to pull the trigger on that one good win, which obviously was with you at SummerMania. In that regard, I guess Brogan would be at the top, the heat, with Brady Branson as well. And then, just a lot of that, a lot of the up and coming guys are standouts right now.
Yeah. And one more question before we go to our first break. I already told you about this question before because I've had this question for a long time. Someone wanted us to relate our friendship to a wrestling promo. And we talked about this before. I told you about this ahead of time. So I'll go first. There's a promo, which you know about it already because I explained already. There's a WrestleMania weekend promo between Triple H, Stephanie McMahon, and The Rock. The backstage, I think it was when it might have been when Rock was hosting WrestleMania or something, but The Rock came back, they're backstage, he's in his jacket, and Triple H, and they're talking about going out to dinner and stuff, and Triple H is like,
"Hey, remember back in the day when we did this? Oh, yeah, and I whooped your ass."
Yeah, and I pedigreed you and got 1, 2, and The Rock's like, "Yeah," and I kicked out, and I rock bottomed your fucking ass in the middle of the ring. And then Stephanie comes back in, and she's like, "Come on, guys, it's WrestleMania weekend. Can we just go out to dinner?" And The Rock walks off first, and he's like, "Yeah, and your bitch ass is paying for it too." And Triple H is like, "See what I mean?" That's the promo I have to go with.
Oh boy, yeah. We talked about this. I don't know. To me, I just think of the Edge and Christian series. Let's sit around and make comedy skits or something.
The show that totally reeks of awesome.
Yeah, their interactions. Maybe there's one that was kind of recent. E and C were there, and this is when they were both retired now, and they ran into New Day. It's almost like the new school jokesters,
yeah.
Old school, and that's kind of how I feel when it comes to maybe guys like you and I, and then recently we just had it wasn't on camera or anything, but it was me, you, Cynical, and James Keane. We're all back together for one day, and that chemistry picked right back up, and. And then we had Hazard here, SummerMania. Those guys, we're all just a plug and play. You can unplug Hazard from XCW for 2 years and then plug him right back in, and he's still here, and it doesn't change. So that promo, with New Day and E&C, kind of stands out as kind of it's a plug and play in XW. James Cerebral walks back in the door. And just having James Cerebral
I'm
here.
just glad you didn't say something like the promo where someone fed Big Show the fucking fucked up burrito or something like that. You remember that? And he gets a cup is backstage in the bathroom. Yeah. So bouncing off that, we go to commercial break. I'm gonna make your editing really hard. We're gonna see the history between you, myself, Simple, James King, the group. Interesting. So join us when we come back from the first break.
Good evening, my people up in the chandeliers. The wine and dining, the menu is blood, sweat, and tears. Everybody ready, raining down confetti. Champions are born right now. Air about the glamour, click goes the hammer. Run when you hear that sound. Heroes never die, gonna make it to the finish line. We know we survive, even if we crawl to the finish line. All belated, underdog dreaming, don't need your cheers, world's gonna say it. Heroes never die, gonna make it to the finish line. Heroes never die, gonna make it to the finish line. We know we survive, even if we crawl to the finish line. All belated, underdog dreaming, don't need no cheers, world's gonna say it. Heroes never die, gonna make it to the finish line. Gotta make it to the finish line. Every day. Gotta make it to the finish line. Heroes never die, gonna make it to the finish line. We know we survive, even if we crawl to the finish line. All belated, underdog dreaming, don't need no cheers, world's gonna say it. Heroes never die, gonna make it to the finish line.
And the millions watching around the world. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, let's get ready to rumble! And the millions watching around the world, let's get ready to rumble! What the hell?
I've been keeping real, I've been doing what I feel. I've been out here trying to kill every beat, I know I will. Everything I'm working on, every night another song. They've been quiet all along, they gon' notice when I'm gone.
We're back from that awesome bean footage, as always. We've seen that. We mentioned the chair shot.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the, I'd say that's probably the second worst. No, third. I think Smitley and then the one disciple kind of take the cake when it comes to that. So
Disciple.
I was trying to kill him.
Yeah.
So was Kyle. We did not care for him back then. So the Mount Rushmore. Who's on the XCW's Mount Rushmore?
I think those are the obvious, myself, you, Cynical, Hazard, maybe you can take one of those out and put a crit acid in there. Take one of those out, put a vapor in there. I mean, it's the continuous names I think that you hear.
Yeah.
And I think there's some that are maybe move aroundable, like expendable a little bit. You know, maybe myself and Hazard are kind of like you know, Corey Lee or Vapor, whatever your flavor of the month is.
Yeah.
But I think you and Cynical are probably the two constant on top.
Most improved superstar all time.
Oh boy.
And I say Dylan Bostic.
Yeah, well, he never really did get good next to W.
Yeah. I mean, he had, I think his best match ever is probably the cruiserweight match that main evented at One Greed.
Mm-hmm.
And he had a really, probably one of Dylan's top 2 matches. He had a really good match with you when we wrestled on Berkeley.
Most improved.
And I remember we had a top 3 most improved, and I said Dylan, myself, and you was my answer for that back when we had that question.
Obviously Brogan's a big one.
Oh yeah, he's huge now.
Void came into his own a lot throughout the years. It took him a really long time. Even a guy who's kind of bubbling under the surface right now and making a name for himself, and Jesse.
Yeah.
Jesse Justice is leaps and bounds. He's not a great wrestler, but his psychology makes up for that in the ring.
That was one of the things I pushed for at the beginning of the season. When we had the writers group and it was active, I pushed. I'm like, I want these things to happen. One of the things that was obviously the Brogan screwing Corey Lee over. That was something I pitched, and I think
Corey's another big one that was.
Let's pull the trigger on Jesse.
And Austin Chaos.
Austin, from the time where I was gone and I was calling you on the phone all the time, we were talking about he was terrible when he first started. You had to reshoot a Summer Mania match, I'm pretty sure, between Benji, Vapor, Austin.
It was a cold day, I believe, but yeah, pretty ugly.
But what's your favorite match of all time? Doesn't technically have to be one of your matches, just favorite XCW match of all time.
I know that yourself and Tommy Merriman from Halloween Havoc 17.
The TLC match?
That was a big standout match. Really caught my attention. It stays fresh in my mind. Another one that's kind of a sleeper is Freedom Fighters and Starstruck. The opening match of Summer Mania 13, I believe.
Was that the one with the special movie entrance edit? Yeah.
Yep. They all tore the house down in that one big time. And then obviously Triple Threat.
Yeah.
From honestly, everybody's a huge fan of the Triple Threat from the Farewell show. I'm an even bigger fan of the Triple Threat ladder.
From the birthday party.
Those show after.
From the birthday party?
Yeah. That match, banger.
My favorite match it's difficult because, like I said, I think my all-time favorite's probably one of the Triple Threat matches, but I really liked the match we had at Cold Day when I came back, at Cold Day when I came back, and then I really liked just the uniqueness of False Count Anywhere match, being able to wrestle my own house and hit Austin in the face with the pie.
Yeah.
There was, I talk about this match all the time, and it's not on camera, and it's very unfortunate. The Summer Mania 2, the power title match between Hazard, Sidecore, and Eternal Darkness. A lot of people think Eternal Darkness is a joke, but that wasn't always the case.
No, not always. No.
We didn't always have the roster that we have now. Eternal Darkness beat both Hazard and Sidecore. And Sidecore was hot at that point.
Yeah, he was.
Because Sidecore won the power title for me, and he might have been the champion at the time.
He was, and then he would later go on in the four-way in October and win the International. Yeah.
So
where you go into a feud with Genocide.
Yeah, so I'm pretty partial to those matches. So here's an interesting one. You got 3 people going head-to-head on a mic. You got Austin Chaos, ACT, and Brogan O'Shea. Who do you think is going to be the standout victor in that mic match? Obviously, it's not really a match. They're just talking shit to each other on the mic. But who comes out on top in that?
Austin's out immediately. Brogan and ACT are going to chomp his ass up. Going with ACT on this one.
I don't know. I don't have an answer for this one. You talked about obviously the new guard and seeing through like the old veterans and stuff like that. When does Fletch hang his boots up so he can help the new guys out?
I should have done that months ago. When the time is right, when collectively you could put together a card and trust every match on that card to go the way that it needs to go. It'll be right. Right now, I have taken a sort of a back seat, working tags and working 6-mans and allegiance tags and stuff. So I've really taken a back seat in the past year versus prior years.
Yeah.
A couple of storylines, where it's seen me kind of in and out of the ring, or I'm fired, or whatever the case is. So, yeah, it's in the near future, but I don't think people are really gonna realize it. It's not gonna be like a sudden. I think it's gonna be eased out.
Yeah, something like people won't even realize.
Yeah.
Because like we talked about earlier, like you took 3 bumps yesterday, and put most of the match on cerebral.
Yeah.
How does one become a better person in and out of the ring?
Well, I mean, obviously you can't do much for people outside of the ring, but I guess the biggest thing is when you have the task at hand of XCW, whether you're in the ring or in a segment, if you put 100% into it, if you're just like, oh, well, when it happens, that happens, kind of. If you put forth that effort while you're here and, you don't just look at it as the twice a month, if you actually put a little bit more into it, a little bit of thought into it, I think you get more out of it.
Yeah.
So, just that mainly.
I could definitely agree with that aspect in the ring, and I want to hark back to Brogan for a second.
Yeah, I think he has too much going on outside of XW. I think if he puts a lot of focus while he's here on his character, on his emphasis, on his matches. I think if he put that much into it more of the time than just while he's here.
Yeah. I was harping back.
He can make the whole company succeed, not just him. I think he has that driven power when he is here, like I do. Yeah. I think he could literally drive the company himself. Even from a backstage perspective, I think that he could literally run the show without me if he would put that brain force into it.
What I was harping back to is throughout the years, people like you and me, or you and Hazard, or me and Hazard, or me and Genocide, me and Cynical, vice versa, the group, so to speak, we've developed the abilities to be able to not have to really talk too much. And, some of the newer people, like even yesterday, I was sitting out in the audience and I could hear, people talking what, obviously the camera probably didn't hear, but personally I could hear. And wrestling that match with Brogan at SummerMania, he said one thing to me the whole match. Everything else just flowed smoothly. He paid attention to everything that was going on. We paid attention to the camera. That's another thing, a lot of people in the ring, over time you develop the mindset of knowing where the camera's looking and what you need to do for the camera versus what you need to do away from the camera.
Right.
And the only thing Brogan told me was his bulldog, and as soon as he Irish whipped me to the corner, I knew what was happening. And Brogan and Brady both. Brady's when you was asking me about, the safest way to spike a DDT, which there's really a safe way to spike a DDT, but he was asking me possibly the safest way, and I explained the safest way versus what the camera can see to make it the safest way. And outside wrestling, it obviously depends on who you surround yourself with. If you surround yourself with people that are cheating on their wives, their significant others, not driven, don't have a job, mooch off their significant others, or people that just druggies, sit around and do drugs all day, obviously, it's the peer pressure, it's the outside forces. Like if you surround yourself with someone that's as focused as you are with wrestling, as like, for example, like someone that's as focused on like working out or something like that, like you need to have those positive influences. Because a guy named Gary V, I'll have a little quote for next year of the Galaxy. A guy named Gary V says, average people and below average people are the ones that complain everything and never do anything to change their situation. But the great people are the ones that work hard to change that situation. So, a little advice for you.
But yeah, circling back to that, just like you're talking about, I think if there was less of an influence for Brogan outside, I could even say that there could be a day where I'm just like, all right, I'm going to sit this next couple of shows out. Brogan's in charge. And I think that we could have the same quality of XCW with him running that show, calling that shot, than if I was. And other than maybe Hazard, I don't think that anyone else has really had the mentality to handle that. I do think that he does. But I think that all of his outside endeavors is an issue.
Yeah, so that's how you do that. What is your opinion on people doing stuff for other promotions or working for independents while in XCW? Because, with something that's happening next year, I thought this was the one question I added to the list.
So, I mean, obviously, I don't necessarily have an issue with working other projects, working other shows. We got Trinity and Deacon who are working Wrestling Untamed. And we've even recently kind of brought in Ogre and, done some stuff with him and stuff like that. Obviously, I'm okay with that. I want everybody to go out and be as safe as possible. I would hate for one of our guys to not be able to participate in XW or be able to further themselves here because they went to another endeavor, less than, greater than, or equal to, and get hurt.
Yeah.
Same with JJ and Jay Ellis, who also work FWL. My only ask is that I'm in the know. I don't want you to find out that you're working somewhere else or doing something else via social media. I want you to be completely honest with me and be like, hey, I have this opportunity, so that we can be up front. Obviously, at that point, as long as it doesn't mess with XCW's dates.
Yeah.
Usually I'm pretty gung-ho. I feel like there's a few people that I would rather my guys not work with. I feel like, there's too much of a backstage beef or, whatever the case may be. But there, obviously the guys that we had an association with when it came to the dealings with the rings and all that stuff, which we beat to death. But, having dealings with those guys, maybe I'd be a little on edge. But as long as everybody's got an open line of communication, I'm usually pretty cool with it. And no offense to, the company or whatever that's promoting for next year that's got 3 of our guys on it.
3? I thought only had 2.
3. JJ, Patrick, and Tommy.
I didn't see JJ.
And no offense, but I feel like you're blind book of Patrick O'Reilly who shouldn't be on the independent.
I can agree. So before we go to our next commercial break, what do you think is in the... Obviously, we have not many more shows left, but without reviewing all the tapes and go back to everything, what do you think is an early running for Match of the Year? I'm partial. I'm saying deathmatch.
Yeah, obviously that's going to be a standout. There's there's like some early stuff from Brady Branson from early in this season. I think while he was champion, a lot of it kind of got
Swept to the wayside.
But I think Brady had a lot of psychology in the things that he was doing. Hayden and Brogan had a few matches in their rivalry that were big standouts. Hayden always does good work. He's been here 2 years, and he's been a super solid worker throughout. I mean, even some of the cinematic stuff that we've done this year has really been standouts. Corey and Jesse had a phenomenal match. The Grotto Funhouse.
Yep.
And then we also had the Field of Fatality between ACT and Void. And I think some of those are some of our bigger standouts.
All right, with that, we're going to go to our last commercial break, and when we come back, we're going all the way to the end.
Same one.
No. Oh. Oh.
piggybacking off what we thought was the early match of the year candidate.
I gotta sit down in the next 2-3 weeks and start that whole process. That should be a ball.
Early superstar of the year candidate. And I believe there's only 2 choices.
I mean, at this point in the year, you gotta say Brogan or Hayden, right?
Yeah, and we talked about this before, and I was gonna say Brogan. Like I said, Brogan at first, but with Brogan having to miss Halloween Harvest.
Brogan will be in Money in the Bank.
Okay, so my mind might change. At first it was Brogan, and then I was going to say Hayden because I didn't know that he was still wrestling because of the injury or whatever, so it's up in there. It's Brogan and Hayden.
I think if you look at promos matches overall, they're hard to beat, but I also think that, if you're looking at runner-ups, if those are not your cup of tea, Boy, Jesse and Brady are hot on the heels. There's a lot of people that's had an amazing season. Sycor's had an amazing season.
You've done pretty well this season, bringing back royalty and the killer promos you've had this season as well. So.
Yeah, and that part of that has been, having guys like Hayden and Sycor as driving force behind that. I think, that's somebody else that's kind of been a sleeper in 2021. Sycor, I mean, he's been here since 2004, and I think 2021 is by far 2020, 2021 best year Sycor's ever had next to you.
Yeah. What would you say to someone that asks, how do I get over?
I guess that goes back to having that drive, being able to, learn your craft, learn your promos, take guys like ACT who are, only a year into their career, and, maybe ACT isn't the best wrestler on the roster. Maybe he's not even technically a good wrestler. Maybe say the same for like a Jackson Long. Maybe Jackson's not the best wrestler you ever watched. But look at their characters. Look at the determination and how they draw their characters. Look at their promo skill. For the fact people were entertained at the fact that ACT is going to walk out there in a dress. People can't get behind a Deacon Storm promo. Deacon can't cut a promo. He can't tell a verbal story to save his life. But in the ring, he's telling a story.
Yep.
He's able to perform a certain way that draws you in. You go, oh, okay, I get Deacon now, and that's the two sides of the coin. That I'm looking at here is like Deacon maybe be able to be a better performer in the ring, but can't tell that story verbally that needs to be done. Whereas like an ACT could tell that story in the ring verbally, but may not be able to tell the story as well physically in the ring.
Yeah.
So and there's that all across the board. Those are just two names. I mean, but it's like that all across the board. Brady's not necessarily a number one go-to on mic skills either, but psychology-wise in the ring-wise, Brady's top-notch. And then you got someone like Brogan O'Shea who you could put on a microphone and you believe, he draws you in, you believe what he's saying to you. And the same with Jesse, you believe in his craziness, you believe in the things that he says. He may not be the best wrestler, he may not have much skill as a wrestler at all, but he finds other ways to be entertaining and other ways to be compelling, and that's just as good as to be a wrestler as being able to go out there and do moonsaults.
Yeah. Michael Hayes was never a good wrestler, but back when he was wrestling, it's the crowd reaction. Just get that crowd reaction. And a lot of things is it can depend on who you're wrestling. It's a two-way street. If I go out there and I'm wrestling you, for example, I know it doesn't matter if you're face or heel, I'm face or heel. I know you will be able to draw the crowd in to get me over, even though I can get myself over, even though you can you can get the crowd to hate you or like you enough to where they're going to hate or like me. It's the same way if I go out to wrestle ACT, they hate him enough that they're automatically just going to cheer me. So it also can depend on your opponent that you're wrestling.
And see, that was the cool thing about like yesterday. We did an open challenge for the hardcore title between Blackheart and ACT, who had a pretty heated feud at the beginning of the season, and you know they've split and done their own thing since and whatever. Put them right back together, and in my opinion, had probably the standout match of All or Nothing this year was Blackheart and ACT. I think they had the best match on the card. And a lot of that was just because ACT has the ability as a character to draw that in, to, you know, make people hate him regardless. Like, just instantly, Blackheart's happy-go-lucky, he's happy to be here, he's hardcore champion. And then, like, you just forget all about ACT being a possibility to answer the call.
Yep.
He does. And instantly draws that heat.
Mm-hmm.
And then still is able to go back and pie-face Brogan O'Shea, and they told a very good story.
I agree. Who do you think is next potential XCW's biggest superstar? And you're going to laugh at my answer. Because it's years off.
So the next big potential star, I assume that's not counting like Brogan and Brady, who've all kind of made it to that pinnacle, right? Okay, I mean, they're there now.
I'm going to say Jacoby. And hear me out. Obviously, way too young for XCW. But I don't know if I told you this, but I literally watched him wrestle the neighbor kid. And, like, I listened to them when they were talking, and Jacoby told him, like, this is what we're going to do. Like, they did it. Boom. Irish whipped a ring post. Jacoby sold it. Boom, boom, boom. Obviously, Jacoby puts himself over in every match, but, like, Jacoby's mindset is better than some of the people on the roster. Like, his knowledge when it comes to wrestling is there.
I think I'll surprise you with my answer, too. So,
Is it Jacoby?
No.
Okay.
I think that the next potential breakout star, maybe even in 2022, is ACT's brother, who's getting ready to debut on the roster here very soon. He's done a little bit of work. He's been on Ground Zeroes. He wrestled the Void at Cold Day this year. In the Twin Switcheroo story.
Yeah.
With 2 hours, less than 2 hours of training, just me and ACT teaching him basic bumps and stuff in a cold garage on a January 7 o'clock at night. You know, like us doing that, just a little bit that he had to be able to go out and do the things that he's done, and now that he's putting forth that effort to train and to get ready to officially get in the ring, I think he's going to be a big star.
I can agree with that. What are your thoughts about finally allowing the Weed Eater? After years and years and years, you finally allowed the Weed Eater.
I'm kind of ashamed I didn't just let it happen sooner.
Obviously, no. The vest cushioned a lot of the impact, but the bitch still fucking hurt.
Oh, I bet.
It didn't feel good.
Yeah.
I regretted it when it hit me. Until it didn't hurt anymore.
But I think that's one of those, it was timed right.
Yeah.
I don't think it would have meant as much if we would have done it any other time. So.
I think even with all the death matches between you and Hazard, myself and Hazard, triple threat death match, Corey, like, I think specifically because of the Brogan wanting to kill the conspiracy and doing everything necessary.
The magnitude of the passing of the torch made sense.
Yeah. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
It's a tough call. If XCW's still here, great. And I obviously won't be in the ring at that point, but more than happy to still attempt to call those shots. Loyalty and dedication with the further generations you get in, the harder that gets to find.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that I'm a little healthier and a little more money in my pocket, and that I can find a way to keep things smooth. I want to try to find a way to have an easy life.
I agree. Would you wrestle for FWL or Untamed?
No.
It would take a lot of money. Does Fletch have any hobbies outside wrestling?
Oh yeah. Obviously, some of them are wrestling related. I know, like myself and ACT, we go out and try to hit conventions and try to hit different things. Most of them are wrestling related. Travel to a lot of toy stores.
Yeah.
We're always on the hunt for old vintage wrestling toys and stuff like that. Horror stuff. Like Mike Myers and stuff like that. So like we're into vintage toys. I do a little bit of vintage video gaming. I don't really play video games, but I do have a lot put back in a collection, and I have a setup. And then music, obviously, is a big one for me.
The only one I know that has every CD in history ever made.
No,
Maybe not quite that much, but
yeah.
A very vast collection. Myself, obviously, several different hobbies. I mentioned at the beginning of the show, and I also play old video games. Not as much past, PlayStation 2, because that was my favorite era of video games. Like, I still play PlayStation 2, but, like, I'm occasionally play 64, stuff like that.
Yeah, I need to go buy me Manhunt.
When you're writing a story or writing up the card for a match, what is your mind like? How do you decide as Fletch who should go over in that particular match that day?
I think it's whatever is going to be compelling to draw you to that next week, that next show, that next segment, the next story. I try to look at it as I try not to look at it as what's going to get us by this show and like what's going to be the big picture.
Yeah.
If I can tell a smaller story now, that I know that I can make it make sense to progress it later. Especially in a situation where you're not doing blow-offs. I always look at that as a bigger picture. Or what's something that we can end this feud and leave it on a cliffhanger, but still revisit that someday. It makes sense. And I don't know how many times in 20 years, we're 6 years down the road, we start something back up and it spawns right off of the story that they had years and years prior. So, I always try to keep some of those things open-ended. I'm kind of hoping to maybe have one or two people that are more, not necessarily writers next year, but I'm looking at maybe possible consultants, where it's like, hey, I need compelling storylines for XYZ and XYZ. Try to come up with a couple of ideas of what we could do promo-wise, or, I think the best way to tell stories as a wrestling writer is being able to tell a long-term story, Or am I working with the best characters with Deacon DJ and Trinity Parker in their storyline? No. But I'm able to tell a compelling story based off of their characters and the way they are. So, I want to be able to tell stories like that more so than just them. It's just as important. I know that at some point in the card I can put Hayden versus Psychor, and they're going to be able to tell the in-ring, but but then your next segment you're seeing something over dramatic happening backstage. And that's a Brogan and somebody, so like that. Storytelling's hard right now because we're in such a transition period, but
I've never been really good at writing out a full storyline. I'm usually, hey Josh, what about this idea? Like I pitched the Extreme King thing, and I said we should probably do something like an Ultimate Deletion style match for Jesse, and then you came up with the Grotto. See, I'm the idea guy. I'm not the story guy.
right.
What is a story or a feud you think should have lasted longer than it did? I'm going to say I think BBW, XCW thing should have lasted longer because it was hot the entire time. It was hot from the inception. It was hot all the way to the end. There was never one dull moment with the BBW, XCW feud.
I think if we would have went with the original royalty the way that was supposed to plan, and I'm not talking about like now royalty, I'm talking about the original royalty. I think if things would have panned out the way that they were supposed to, where it didn't just become like, oh, now Chris and Brandon and all and Genocide and all these people who were not supposed to be in it are now in it, and then it flip-flopped so much, and we had to move so many people around. I think if it stayed the original version, you know, myself and Hazard and Kevin Harris, and, you know, I think if we would have been able to, you know, Austin, if we would have been able to play out the way that we were going to play that one out, it would have been better. Also, like, I think the thing that lost its legs way too soon, and it would have been fucking-gantic, is if we could have kept the original Untouchables together. If we wouldn't have had to pivot to Corey Lee, I think, nothing against Corey. Corey had a good run, and it made literally Corey's Untouchables after you left made everybody a star. Not just, you know, Untouchables circled around Chris. Yeah. It became, you know, like Cerebral became a champion after that. Carnage became a champion after that. Crisis became a big deal after that. And Corey himself became a bigger star for it. But I think if we could have kept the original Untouchables running, man, there could have been another good half to full season off of it.
I could completely agree. Corley's definitely not a hype man.
Yeah. They became Cerebral.
Yeah. So, beyond that, as we head towards the end of the show, there's one question left, and obviously, you know, I've got a couple messages on Twitter. People want to know if they were interested in XCW, whether it be as a wrestler, you know, it could be a camera guy, referee. How should they approach you, or how should they contact you?
Well, obviously the XCW Facebook is probably a good way, or message me directly on Facebook. It's a good source of contact. Please reach out. We're always looking to expand. We're always looking to, you know, to change things up. Obviously, like commentary right now needs a shot in the arm. Referee right now, you know, needs a shot in the arm. We need guys that, you know, can focus more on being able to work on camera.
Yeah.
There are other aspects other than being a wrestler that you know, we may not even think. So, the Twitter, Facebook, or me directly, any way you can, don't hesitate. There's something for someone everywhere. I mean, Steve has been here how long?
You just gotta make sure you're serious about it. That's probably the number one thing. Like, if you aren't sure, like, still, you know, get a hold of you or something.
Look at this schedule, commit to that schedule, and move on. I mean, drive for those dates.
Yeah. And with that, I believe we're going to head to the end of XCW No False Finish. Fletch, myself, with episode 1, the Q&A. Join us next time.
Too many thoughts on my mind, I can't sleep at night, so I just keep writing. I don't need no help, I don't need opinions, so don't waste my time then. Killing the game and I gotta go ask anybody, they all heard about it. They know when the kid and he spitting, they know when he get in it, better and I get in my way. Got this, I like do whatever I say, cause I could go put you on blast. People been mad at me cause I don't follow them back. I'm laughing cause that is so whack. Why they all trying to act like they been bossing when really their bosses been bossing them up? Nobody ever been telling me what I would do when I keep in the cash, for the shit out of luck. Ayy. Funny how it goes, funny how it goes. Talking about shit they don't even know. Why they tryna tell me about what I should do? They don't know about the shit I've been through. It ain't what it seems, it ain't what it seems. Been 4 years, I've been chasing dreams. This ain't overnight, this ain't overnight. Working every night till the sunrise.